Bills safety Damar Hamlin suffered an injury a couple days ago that woke up the NFL world. To raise awareness for Damar, we'll be following this message with a moment of silence. We encourage those to say a quick prayer for Hamlin as his friends and family go through such a tough time.
Snap it, and it's Trey Burton who throws caught. Foles, touchdown.
Here he goes. It's Hester inside the 30. Hester's going to take it all the way for a touchdown.
Fields stumbling, trying to cut it back. Justin Fields making magic happen. There goes Fields. Touchdown.
Hurts on first down, fires downfield. It's Deshaun Jackson back in the lineup. It's the last 7 games, and he will take it 81 yards. A somersault into the end zone. His first touchdown of the season.
You're listening to the Pigskin Project, the world's #1 football podcast. Now, with more insights on all things football, here are your hosts, Ben Hansen and Ryan Matthews.
Ladies and gentlemen, it feels so good to be back. Your co-hosts, Ryan and Ben, Ryan being me, Ben being the weirdo to my right. Dude, it feels so good to be back. Happy New Year. And also, Merry Christmas. My God, dude. Here's the thing. We took a break. We took just a 1-week break, and it was strictly because of scheduling issues. We couldn't line up a right time for it to kind of work for us. Overall, I mean, it was pretty rough trying to figure it out, and it sucked trying to make the decision to not do it because it was such a big week. It was episode 50 for the Pigskin Project. Which is something that we're not taking lightly. This is going to be an awesome episode, and we can't wait to get into it. Not only that, but I mean the college football playoffs, which didn't end in our favor, but still OHIO. Anyways, so I mean, lots of stuff to cover. We're definitely going to cover it in this episode, as well as what's going to be going on this weekend. Playoff seedings. I mean, big week in the NFL. But overall, before anything, my co-host, Ben, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic. Again, Happy New Year to everyone watching. First episode of 2023, which is awesome. And, you know, again, I just hope everyone had happy holidays. And it's a shame that we couldn't see a Michigan versus Ohio college national football. But, you know, it is what it is. But I'm having a great week, you know, outside of the sad news, but we'll get there. So,
yeah. And yeah, we'll definitely get there. But before anything, I feel like we are supposed to do a weekly recap, and that weekly recap will happen between week 17 and then also week 16 and week 17 as we get into week 18. But something else as well. I want to make sure that we go through this as quick as possible. So if you're not used to this or whatever, just carry on. I promise you, if you want to skip a few seconds, I promise you I'm going to try and take maybe a minute with this. We'll time it and see. So, without further ado, week 16, Jaguars beat the Jets 19-3. Falcons lost to the Ravens 17-9. Panthers beat the Lions 37-23. Chiefs beat the Seahawks 24-10. Saints beat the Browns 17-10. Bengals beat the Patriots 22-18. Vikings beat the Giants 27-24. Bills beat the Bears 35-13. Texans beat the Titans 19-14. 49ers beat the Commanders 37-20. Cowboys beat the Eagles 40-34. Steelers beat the Raiders 13-10. Packers beat the Dolphins 26-20. Man, did they luck out. Rams beat the Broncos 51-14 on Christmas Day. Buccaneers beat the Cardinals 19-16. Chargers beat the Colts 20-3. And now for week 17, Cowboys beat the Titans 27-13. Falcons beat the Cardinals 20-19. Patriots beat the Dolphins 23-21. Saints beat the Eagles 20-10. Giants beat the Colts 38-10. Buccaneers beat the Panthers 30-24. Chiefs beat the Broncos 27-24. Lions beat the brakes off my Bears 41-10. Browns beat the Commanders 24-10. Jaguars beat the Texans 31-3. 49ers beat the Raiders 37-34. Seahawks beat the Jets 23-6. Packers beat the Vikings 41-17. Chargers beat the Rams 31-10. Steelers beat the Ravens 16-13. And the Bills and Bengals game has been suspended, and there as of right now is no makeup date. How about that? I finished that in about a minute. Kyle Gagliardi coming in hot. Happy New Year, gentlemen. Yes, Happy New Year, Kyle. He says, go Pack, go. And you know what, Ben?
And Kyle, I was on your side this week. I was darn right about this past week. Jair Alexander shut down Jay Jetta, dude.
Hey,
it was wild.
Just like he did in week 1. That was a good prediction. I will say there was a little bit of bias on my side, but what do you know? What do you say we go into weekly news, huh?
Sounds good.
Right.
Ryan and Ben bring you weekly news.
So, this is going in. Kyle Gagliardi saying Ben is a smart guy. Jair is him. Hey, we're both smart here, but hey, props to Ben here. All right. Yeah, no. So overall, we're gonna start from the big headlines as well. They're gonna be tossed in there. Whatever you haven't heard, we're gonna provide here. And I'm also going to be having little, blurbs for everyone too, just about. So Cardinals head coach Cliff Kingsbury could walk away from the team this offseason. Him and Kyler Murray have been growing distant. Note also Kyler Murray's knee injury could keep him out past week 1 of next season. So that's huge. Bengals right tackle La'el Collins tore his ACL and MCL. By the way, Ben, chime in at any time.
Huge. Well, the first two, by the way, you called the whole Cardinals collapse, but more than anything, the whole La'el Collins thing is huge for more reasons than one. Obviously, that offensive line didn't play too well, but the way they have that line set up is kind of weird. They have a big split between. They have it like so splits is how far offensive linemen are away from each other. And the 4 offensive linemen, so from right guard, center, left tackle, or other way around, they are all like super close. But La'el Collins plays left guard, and he has like a 5-6 foot split, and I don't know who's gonna fill in there. But it's gonna be super interesting to see if they continue that big split between the left tackle and the left guard, or if they leave it or they change it. It's gonna be real weird. But I think he was a big key to their success, and we'll see how that affects their playoff run.
This next one, big news out of Vegas. The Raiders are benching quarterback Derek Carr, which they have already for Jarrett Stidham, which did not perform that bad, to preserve Carr's health for a potential offseason trade. There's also a legit chance Derek Carr is released. That's pretty big, and I would all of a sudden consider the Raiders to potentially be trade-up candidates this upcoming draft season. Ben, any thoughts before we move on to the next one?
No, I would be surprised if he gets released. There's a market for him. I think they can probably get a second-round pick for him, or like a third-round pick and a player. I don't think he'll be released. I think there's plenty of QB-needy teams, even like a team like the Panthers, Jets, teams like that. I don't think he'll be released, but I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if they end up with one of the top 3 quarterbacks.
This next one, Ben, I've been waiting to say for a long time. Nathaniel Hackett has been fired. The worst signing out of last offseason, and it's crazy because I don't know, a couple guys that I know called it. Might have been us.
Maybe.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Stick around, guys. We know what we're talking about. So I mean, Nathaniel Hackett getting fired. And the Broncos, I mean, they did pretty good this past week too. So what do you know? Next up, we want to congratulate a future first ballot Hall of Famer. JJ Watt is retiring after this week. One heck of a career, man. And we did call this one as well. I told everybody this is probably going to happen, and you agreed. After his heart stopped working for a second. They shocked it back up and everything, and he was in tears. And I think by then the decision was made. He has a kid now. It's more important to be a dad than a football player at this time too. So one heck of a job. There's a lot that he accomplished. Props to JJ Watt for an amazing career.
Definitely.
Next up, the Jets aren't going to shop Zach Wilson this offseason, despite the rumors. I don't know how much I believe this. This is pretty iffy. There's no reason to shut him down completely if you still believe in him. I don't know. And
you're right.
Yeah.
There's no way. I think they'll end up with like a Tom Brady, or not a Tom Brady. I think they'll end up with a Derek Carr or like a Jimmy G or something. They might not trade him, but he's not going to be their starting quarterback in the future. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. So next up, Sam Howell is expected to make his debut this week. Taylor Heineke was supposed to be on a snap count as well. They're supposed to just kind of split it. But after he met with the coaches, Howell's getting the start. Props to Heineke for being a good guy, by the way, because he stated that Howell deserves a chance to play a full game. And Howell's going to get just that. He's going to get his first NFL start because of it. So I think, if you're the Commanders, what do you have to lose? You know what I mean? You were in playoff contention, and now you're not. And now it's just kind of one of those things where it's like, hey, you know what? We drafted this kid. Let's see what he's got. So pretty big. But the biggest news out of the week, we covered it right at the start. We had our 30-second moment of silence and everything. Bills safety Jamal Hamlin collapsed on the field after going into cardiac arrest. The Bills-Bengals game was postponed as a result. Hamlin has been revived, although he is not breathing on his own. He was listed in critical condition, and his vitals have since been restored, and Hamlin has also been put to sleep. A breathing tube has been put down his throat to maintain oxygen levels, and medical professionals will continue to run tests as time goes on. As of today, progress has been made according to results. We will continue to keep praying here. We encourage those listening to do the same. Also, if you have a couple bucks, drop it in his toy drive. It had an original goal of $2,500 and now is surpassed $5 million. So that's really cool. We have to talk about it, and it really sucks. I'm going to go ahead and segue into overreactions because it leads me to my first point. It's going to be hard to watch, let alone play football after Damar Hamlin went down. This really changed just everything about it. I think that there's going to be some players that decide, hey, maybe I should hang it up. There's some things that matter a little bit more than football. One of those players, in my opinion, Tua Tagovailoa. You're looking at a brain injury. He's already been in concussion protocol 3 times, and in college, he also had one of those things where he was also in concussion protocol over there too. You're looking at a young player that is sacrificing a lot by continuing. But when you look at Damar Hamlin, and I say this now, this has been a lot. This isn't an unpopular thing, but I made it a point to when I was talking to my parents about it, as it was happening, I sounded like a crazy person because I looked at them and I said, part of this is beautiful. They're like, what do you mean? And I was like, the fact that Bengals and Bills fans can sit there together and embrace each other and cry together and pray together and just hope for the best for this one player because he's a human and not because he's a Bill or anything else. You have division rivals such as the Dolphins players and the Patriots players and the Jets players and everything. Not only that, but the rest of the league. And you're talking team admins, you're talking every player from everywhere is still shouting him out on social media and praying for him and hoping that he's going to be okay. Not only that, but you have fans, you have people that pay attention to this religiously like we do, to where this matters to them. Their players matter to them and their teams matter to them. But above all else, safety is key. And the thing is, it was nice to see humanity restored at least a little bit, at least recently. It's unfortunate that the circumstances had to happen for it to happen, but above all else, it sucks. I've become more of a religious guy over the last month, realistically. And I think that God has a weird way of doing certain things. And I think that this is one of those things to where he's, trying to bring at least our nation a little bit closer when it comes to certain things, because a lot of people can be really selfish about the things that they think about. One of those things, I mean, I really hate to bring more light to it because it really makes me mad. An ESPN analyst, I'm not going to name his name, tweeted out something that was extremely disrespectful.
Yeah.
And because of that, I mean, people are calling for his job and everything, as they should. But at the same exact time, I mean, it sucks to see something like that because it's such a big moment for football and a football fan as well. I don't care how important the seedings are, and quite frankly, I don't think the league does either. I don't think anybody's really going to be upset if this game doesn't happen anymore. There was complete silence over the entire stadium on Monday, and you could hear a pin drop. If you listen to literally anything, I mean, players, people there, I mean, crying and there were guys. I remember reading this post. I wish I had it up so I could read it. It made me choke up straight up. And the thing is, when you have people from the opposite side, cheering on the opposite team, making sure that you're okay, like, there's beauty in it. There really is. Above all else, I mean, us at the Pigskin Project hope to God that Damar Hamlin's going to be okay. I hope that he makes it out, and above all else, I hope that he returns to full strength. Whether or not he decides to play football is up in the air, but that doesn't matter at this point. Strictly hoping for his health to be better. It's really tough to report this as well. I want to give out major props to the Monday Night Football team, the broadcast team, to keep us kind of informed as fans. This is huge to kind of keep a clear mind. This is very upsetting and very hard, just grabbing, I guess, to watch. And it made you open up your eyes, and for them to be able to express and clarify everything that was going on in a clear and professional manner. Major props to them at ESPN. Not only that, but the teams that after the game's coverage expired, they kind of continued doing it on the nightly episodes of SportsCenter. Fantastic job by the analysts there. I don't want to dwell too much on it, but overall, phenomenal job by the people that were involved, and best of luck. And we're praying for Damar Hamlin. That's all that I have to say. But I'd like to let you speak your piece on it. Go ahead.
No. I mean, you covered the majority of it. Again, for those who weren't watching, he went to make a tackle. He got hit in the chest, which caused the heart issue. And then the scary thing was they actually brought the ambulance out on the field. I think they performed CPR for 9 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
Like you said, he was in the hospital. It was pretty scary, and it still is. But he's showing signs of improvement. Reports are the doctors are saying that he's making the steps to get to recovery and stuff. And like you said, he's still on a breathing tube, but he's making steps forward, which is everything that we can pray and hope for. And just as a young man, you just hope that he can, continue to make that, progress forward and hopefully one day, recover from this fully. And like you said, it's more than just football. It's just, you hope that he can just at least get back to, living a normal life. And just like you said, send prayers to him and his family, and, just hope that he's okay. And then the other thing too, that I wanted to touch on, I was all for canceling football this week. We've seen it all throughout this week. Players are, it kind of woke people up a little bit, like you said, and people are distraught about it. And I think I don't think it'll happen, but I think it would be all for postponing this week of play. And again, I just hope everyone's okay. And then the last thing too is people need to stop being jerks to T. Higgins. T. Higgins was a player that who he got hit by. T. Higgins didn't do anything dirty. T. Higgins obviously had no clue what he was doing. Like T. Higgins wasn't purposely like lowering his head to hit him in this specific spot at this, half second in time to cause this.
Yeah.
And it's just nasty that people are sending him death threats as well. Again, I just think it's important that we all come together and we all try to focus on the positive and pray for him and his family to make sure he gets out okay. So
absolutely. Moving on to a more bright note for overreactions. I believe Brian Dabble is secretly doing things, or not secretly, but silently doing great things with Daniel Jones.
Coach of the year.
What'd you say?
I think he's the coach of the year.
I was gonna ask you. So coach of the year, right? I mean, Nick Sirianni's got to be in that talk. I mean, obviously. But Brian Dabble, I mean, he's got to be at least a candidate. I don't think he'll win it, in all honesty. They went on a little bit of a losing streak, but with what he's doing with that team, I think that he's got a pretty good thing going.
Yeah.
You want to go ahead and do you have any overreactions?
Yeah, I actually have. I have a few for you here. Let me. Yeah. So I love the Jaguars. I've kind of been a proponent for the Jaguars. As soon as the MVP odds come out, I'll be of age, so I will be putting money on the MVP award. It's just a little something for Trevor Lawrence and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But as much in there, and I think they'll make the playoffs. You'll see my predictions. I do think they're an easy out. I think people are jumping the gun a little bit, saying they're a team to be scared of, and I think they're a fun team. But I do think they're going to be an easy out in the playoffs. I think people need to pump their brakes just a little bit on this Jaguars train this year. I think next year's the year we see them take that big step. My Eagles, I don't know what the heck's going on. I mean, I do. Jalen Hurts, but it sucks. I was really hoping we didn't have to play our starters this week, but now we do. If we win, we lock up the number 1 seed. If we lose, you're hoping Dallas loses. But if we win, or if we lose and Dallas wins, we go from the number 1 seed to the 5th seed. So that's
you know
great.
what? I'll say it once, I'll say it again. Eagles haven't won since that Christmas album's been out, and they've lost just as many games in 2023 as the Bears have. I don't know what's going on.
And I think, by the way, we need to take a look. Like people's argument for Jalen Hurts was anybody could throw in this offense. Anyone could produce in this offense. No.
I just want to clarify that was not my take.
No.
I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying for those that are listening for the very first time, he has not taken a shot at me. It's just like it's a stupid take that's actually pretty popular for no reason.
Yeah, before he went down, people were like, "Well, anyone can throw in that offense. That offense is amazing, and it is an amazing offense." But
it takes a lot for somebody to acknowledge the fact that the Eagles have a great quarterback. And it's the same exact thing for me as well as a Bears fan. But hey, who knows?
So, and then
anything else?
And then I have the last two. Again, what the heck happened with the Dolphins? They kind of just suck now. They started off 0-3, or they started off 3-0, then went 0-3, and they went 5-0, and now they're 0-5. It's crazy how that happens, and now they're fighting for their playoff lives now. And then the last one is Tom Brady. Tom Brady started to show up just in time for the playoffs. That offense has stunk all year, and then this past game, he was like, "Oh yeah, I am the greatest quarterback that ever played football." Which I've always told people to calm down because everyone's like, "Oh, Tom Brady's going to sneak in and he's going to win the Super Bowl." People need to calm down. But like Tom Brady is starting to show up just in time for this playoffs now, and whoever's playing, so it'll either be the Cowboys or the Eagles who play them. It's a little scary. So,
really quick before we move on, I know I've reached out to a few people. If you are a Bears fan that are waiting for this segment, there's 3 quick things that we have to take care of, and then we will be right there. Okay, we'll be right back after this drop, and then we'll get right back to it.
Just when you thought it was safe to play the underdog, we put you on Upset Alert.
All right, back at it. So, there's a lot of upsets that I guess could happen, and I don't know if they should be classified as upsets specifically because these teams are going to start sitting their starters.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to go ahead and read off mine. I'm not going to really spit too much on them. Chiefs and Raiders, Texans and Colts, Browns and Steelers, Jets and Dolphins, Giants, Eagles, Rams, Seahawks, Chargers, Broncos, and Lions, Packers. Now, I know as an Eagles fan, you're like, Giants? Like, what about the Giants?
No, I have
There's
them.
a chance.
Yep.
There's a chance. I'm not saying that it's going to happen, but there's a chance.
I'm right there with you. No, I had every single team you had on there. I had on my upset alert. I mean, that's exactly what my upset alert looked like, besides the Lions and Packers, just because I think that's going to be a close game no matter what. I don't care what Vegas says. I think it's like 2.5. I think the Packers
game of
are
the
favored,
week.
but it's a game of the week. But the Packers are favored by 2.5, which isn't much at all. So that's the only reason
they're at home too. That's huge.
Yeah. So
it's going to be an awesome game.
Yes.
Let's go ahead and move on.
You think you know football? Well, prove it. This is Pigskin Pick'em.
Here we go. Shout out to Vince, by the way, for doing drops again. I know I normally shout him out, but still, love that guy. Great guy. Spent some time while I was away, by the way. That was part of the reason why we couldn't do it. But anyways, Pigskin Pick'em. Now, listen. I had some mathematical errors last time. I apologize. We couldn't get the overall records from episode 49. If you follow our Twitter, which you absolutely should, it's a great follow. We put out our weekly predictions for last week. And so last week, Ben kicked my butt. He had 11-4, so pretty solid. I guess and 1, but I went 7-8-1, and the reason why I'm adding a tie, everybody's probably going to be like, but there wasn't a tie this week. Now listen, the Bills and Bengals game was postponed, so we're going to add that game in the tie column until further notice. We will add it in the win or loss column if that game is played, but I don't expect it to be. Therefore, I'm going to add it to the tie column. Now, the most crazy part about this, because we've been dealing with this for the entirety of the season. We've had the same exact records in like maybe not even half the season, but in a lot of the season.
We've either been exact same or like 1 or 2 off for, I would say, probably 80% of the season, which is wild because we've definitely picked different games. It's not like we're just picking the same game or 1 off. Like each week we have 4 or 5 games that are different from each other.
Yeah. So that being said, we're both standing at 154 wins, 99 losses, and 3 in the tie column because of the 2 ties and then the Bills and Bengals game. So this is for all the marbles. And
we're not including playoffs?
Well, I was going to say, as far as regular season bragging rights, this is it. And then I don't know, we'll figure out something for the playoffs if we're doing anything different. Follow our Twitter. Like I said, maybe we'll announce it. I don't know. But anyways, there's no Thursday night game. There's Saturdays and Sundays. That's the games. Chiefs and Raiders starts off our slate. Ben, what do you think?
This is tough because I do think the Chiefs will probably end up playing the first half with their starters and then sit in the second half. But Jarrett Stidham is also the quarterback for the Raiders, so I do think the Chiefs end up winning either way. I think the Chiefs will probably win 24-17.
So, okay, let's see, 24-17. I also have the Chiefs winning at 24-13. Next up, the Titans and Jaguars.
I have the Jaguars blowing the Titans out of the water, and this is for the division as well. Whoever wins this wins the division. So we're all for it. We have the Jags 31-10. But the touching point in this game, which I know we like to blow through this, but it's just a bit weird. I have no clue why the Titans keep on starting Joshua Dobbs. They started him last week. He played awful. Yeah. And for some reason, they're going to start him again this week when they have a super talented, a super athletic and super traitsy guy sitting on the bench just waiting to be developed. And they won't play Malik Willis for some reason. But anyways, yeah, Jags 31-10.
I also have the Jags in a division clinching game 28-17. Ravens at Bengals.
I'm going to have the Bengals winning this one. And I think this might affect the Ravens playoffs. Anyways, I'm going to have the Bengals winning 28-16.
The thing is, I think that there's a chance that the Ravens win in some strange world, but I'm going with the safe pick with the Bengals. And I'm gonna say it's gonna be 31-21. Browns and Steelers.
So that Steelers game this past week was a whole lot of fun. Kenny Pickett, started showing flashes, and maybe he is the guy. But hopefully he's not going to turn into Mac Jones. It's a conversation another time. We are going to have the Browns barely winning, though, 21-20.
I also have the Browns winning 24-20. Did you say 24-20 or 21-20?
21-20.
21-20. Okay, I have 24-20. Vikings and Bears.
We're gonna have the Vikings win. Sorry, I almost messed up there. The Bears are starting Peterman. I'm sure you will get there in a segment or two from now, so
Yes.
we'll hold off on that. But we'll have the Vikings win 35-10.
I have the Vikings 99-0 because score predictions don't matter. Patriots at Bills.
I do think the Bills are probably going to pay their starters for the majority of the game, just because they're going to try to lock up that number 1 seed. So I don't think it's like 100% locked up yet. But if they win, they get it. I'm almost certain about that, but don't quote me. So I do think the Bills are going to have their starters play. For that reason, we're going to have them win 24-17.
I have the Bills 31-13. This is ridiculous, Ben. I think this one could potentially face a different result. I have the Bills 31-13. There's just no picking against the Bills right now. I think that they're going to play all out for Hamlin. Jets at Dolphins.
We're going to have the Dolphins win this one. I don't know who you had here. I think this game could go either way. Probably not going to be able to watch it. That being said, I think I'm going to have the Dolphins win 27-21.
I'm going with the Jets 24-20.
Yes.
I think that's
Break the tie.
Like I said, it's going to go either way. Buccaneers at Falcons.
The Buccaneers are going to win 28-24. Like I said, Tom Brady is finally picking up some steam.
I am also in that same boat, and Desmond Ridder slow start. I'm going to say 17. Panthers at Saints.
We're going to have the Panthers win this, but this game literally doesn't mean anything. Both teams are now out of playoff contention because the only reason they were in playoff contention was because of the division. The Buccaneers have that locked up now. But I just think the Panthers are the better team, even though the Saints did do a number on the Eagles last week. But we will have the Panthers winning 24-21.
I'm going with the Saints 27-24. Texans at Colts. Big game.
Sam is starting for the Colts. Nick Foles got hurt, which is another conversation we didn't have. What Kayvon Thibodeau did was completely nasty and awful. For those who don't know what I'm talking about, Kayvon Thibodeau, he didn't purposely hurt Nick Foles, but Nick Foles got hurt. Kayvon Thibodeau came in, sacked him, and Nick Foles got hurt. And Kayvon Thibodeau was literally like 3 feet away from him doing like snow angels. And he like literally looked at Nick Foles and then started doing snow angels, which is just nasty and awful. Anyways, because Sam is starting for the Colts, we're going to have the Texans win 20-17. Which, if that happens, Bears have number 1 overall draft pick.
That's awesome. I really hope that happens, except I'm going to be going with the Colts 20-17 and be pleasantly surprised if it goes the other way.
Yes.
Start of the afternoon games. Cardinals at 49ers.
We are going to have the Niners win. The Cardinals are starting David Blau. So this is now their 4th quarterback. For that reason, even if the Niners are sitting, which I don't think they are, but even if the Niners are sitting their guys, the Niners are still going to blow them out 31-10.
Oh my God. Ben, we have the same exact everything in that pick. Cowboys at Commanders. This, I feel like this could potentially go both ways.
Closer than what people think.
Mm-hmm.
But as much as I really wish the Cowboys would have played a tougher opponent, they are playing the Commanders, which sucks. But I will say there's a good thing that comes out of this, but we'll get to it when the Eagles play. But we will have the Cowboys winning this one in a 1-score game. The Cowboys 27 to the Commanders 21.
I have the Cowboys winning 38-20. Rams at Seahawks.
We're gonna have the Seahawks win this one. We're gonna have them win 28-13, and I don't think they're in playoff contention. And if they are, they're gonna have a lot of things that have to swing the right way.
So I am not going to be picking that. You said 28-13.
Yeah, Seahawks 28-13.
I have Rams 20-17. Playing playoff shocker. Giants at Eagles.
So the reason I said this was fun, I do have the Eagles winning 31-27, which means they lock up the number 1 seed. But I greatly enjoyed that this is in the same time slot as the Cowboys, because they won't know who won each game, meaning they're both gonna really play hard, the Eagles and Cowboys, versus if the Cowboys were in the noon slate and the Eagles were in the 3:30 slate. If the Cowboys lost, then the Eagles could just rest their starters. But since they're in the same time slot, they won't know who won the games. So both the Eagles and the Cowboys are going to have to literally fight tooth and nail for the number 1 seed. So I love the fact that the NFL put them in the same time slot. But yeah, like I said, the Eagles are going to win 31-27.
Next up, I'm going Eagles 28-23. Next up, Chargers at Broncos.
We're going to have the Chargers squeak this one out. They've already locked up their spot, so it doesn't really matter. But I do think they're going to squeak this one out. Chase Daniels is probably going to be playing the entire second half of this game. But still, the Chargers are going to win 28-24.
I'm going to go Broncos 24-20. The game of the week, the hardest to predict, Lions and Packers.
Kyle, I know I've been with you this entire time. I'm sorry. I have to do it to you. I do think this is for the playoffs. Whoever wins this, I think, is most likely making the playoffs. They're sneaking in that 7th seed. That being said, like you said, game of the week, and I think it's going to show to be the game of the week. I think the Lions are going to squeak it out and win 34-31. I'm sorry, Kyle.
Kyle, you have somebody on your side. I'm going with the Packers 31-23, and be pleasantly surprised if it doesn't happen. We'll see which one happens. I don't think it's going to matter. I think
go Lions. You're darn right, Coach Tyler.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Well, this next segment that we're going to be doing, it's our playoff picture segment. And so this one's a little bit of fun because we just did our last pigskin pick'em for the regular season. Ben, I'm going to go ahead and go through our playoff machine. I will share my screen now. That way people can see what I'm doing. But essentially what I'm going to do, I'm going to be punching in whatever Ben picked into this playoff machine, and just kind of go from there. Let's see, Bengals. Let's see, Browns, Vikings, Bills. And then, so pretty much in this whole thing, you're going to be seeing the playoff matchups in the scenario that Ben is perfect this week. You picked the Panthers in this one. Eagles, Cowboys, Chargers, Niners, Seahawks, Lions. All right.
Oh, so it doesn't matter if the Seahawks win. That would suck, though. Because if the Seahawks win, that means Monday night doesn't matter.
Yeah. And it's not Monday night, it's Sunday night, too,
Sunday
by the way.
Night, sorry.
So, yeah, they will be watching that game intently. But, yes, so this is the playoff picture for Ben's scenario. Kansas City gets the 1 seed in the AFC. Then it's Miami at Buffalo in the wild card. Baltimore at Cincinnati. Los Angeles at Jacksonville. So we're getting a Week 18 rematch in Baltimore and Cincinnati. I kind of like that. In the NFC, Philly gets the 1 seed. Seattle versus San Francisco. The New York Giants taking on the Vikings, and the Dallas Cowboys taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I would hate to see I don't want to see the Giants make it. I'm going to be honest. Whoever the Giants play,
they're already
an
in.
easy out. They're locked in.
They're already locked in. They clinched
Oh,
this past week.
blows or whoever plays them. And I've been on the team, which is ironic because we've talked about the Giants and Vikings both being frauds. So this game's gonna blow.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Whoever it is, they're getting blown out later on. But so, which would mean the winner of this game, I believe. Oh no, not necessarily.
The winner. So the winner of that game plays the winner of the Niners Seattle game, which means the Eagles would most likely be playing Dallas in the divisional round, which would be fun as heck.
So for my playoff scenario, where you only switched up a couple of them, the Jets would beat the Dolphins, the Saints would beat the Panthers, the Colts would beat the Texans, the Rams would beat the Seahawks, the Eagles, yeah, that's right, the Broncos would beat the Chargers, and then the Packers would beat the Lions, which means the Packers are in. So in this scenario, Miami would be out, and let's see, New England would be in, and then Seattle would be out, and Green Bay would be in. Pretty much the same exact scenario otherwise. It is the same exact scenario.
Game, though. The Green Bay versus the Niners. I think that'd be an underrated game to watch.
So that is our playoff matchups and what we think is going to happen. New England's going to get curb stomped by Buffalo again. I mean, whatever. Anyways, so that brings up Bears what everybody's fans. Been waiting for.
Yes.
Not Ben's College Corner. I apologize. Okay. Bears offseason analysis. Guys, we've been bringing this for a while. Actually, we've been previewing this, saying that this is going to happen, and dang it, it's our 50th episode. It's time to get it done.
Like you said, I'm gonna kick back. I'm gonna turn my microphone off. I'm gonna relax on this nice, comfy couch and let you take it away.
Here, Ben, what I want you to do, though, please take notes of questions that you have, comments that you have on everything. I'm going to go over literally anything. If you guys are Bears fans, I'm going to go over NFL draft targets on defense, NFL draft targets on offense.
That's where I think I'm going to have the most fun, by the way.
I'm going to be going over free agent targets on offense and defense. I'm going to be going off of trade targets. And then I'm going to be going on my perfect offseason rant as to what is hopefully going to happen. And we're talking by the books. So let's get started. So the position needs left tackle, right tackle, center, edge, interior defensive line, wide receiver, cornerback, and maybe even running back, depending on the David Montgomery situation.
So the whole team.
Okay. Unnecessary. All right. You're in the penalty box. Our NFL draft targets, the first, and I'm only talking the first 2 rounds. By the way, no, I'll get to that. Anyways, NFL draft targets. On defense, Will Anderson Jr., edge, Alabama. Miles Murphy, edge, Clemson. Tyree Wilson, edge, Texas Tech. Let's see. Jalen Carter, interior defensive line, Georgia. Brian Breesy, interior defensive line, Clemson. Coach Tyler, I am definitely getting back to offensive outside linebacker later on, I promise. So anyways, Jalen Carter, interior defensive lineman, Brian Breesy, interior defensive lineman, Siaki Ika, I think I pronounced that right, interior defensive lineman, Baylor, Cam Smith, cornerback, South Carolina, Kelly Ringo, cornerback, Georgia, Jalen Jones, cornerback, Texas A&M. Now for offense, Peter Skoronski, tackle, Northwestern, Paris Johnson Jr., tackle, Ohio State. Broderick Jones, tackle, Georgia. Luke Weipler, center, Ohio State. Quentin Johnson, wide receiver, TCU. Jordan Addison, wide receiver, USC. Jackson Smith-Njigba, wide receiver, OSU. And now, if we're not extending David Montgomery, Bijan Robinson, Blake Corum, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Tank Bigsby, specifically because I like his name. Anyways, so free agent targets, our offensive lineman, Orlando Brown Jr., the tackle from Kansas City, Mike McGlinchey, tackle, San Francisco, Center Rodney Hudson on a short-term deal, potentially. Center, Arizona. Center, Connor McGovern in New York from the Jets. Halfback, David Montgomery, ? Josh Jacobs, Jamal Williams. Wide receiver, Jacoby Myers, Juju Smith-Schuster. Edge, Yannick Ngakwe, Colts. Marcus Davenport, Saints. Draymond Jones, Broncos. Defensive tackle, Darren Payne, Commanders. Ashawn Robinson, Rams. Poona Ford, Seahawks. Linebacker, Tremaine Edmonds, Bills. I swear to God, target him if he's available. Probably won't be, though. Cornerback, Jamel Dean, Buccaneers. Now for the trade targets. Chris Godwin, Tampa Bay. DeAndre Hopkins, Cardinals. Jerry Jeudy, Broncos. Devontae Adams, Raiders. Michael Thomas, Saints. Brandon Ayuk, 49ers.
I hate to cut you off. I know I said I'd lay back.
Okay.
Do you think you could start that trade over again and just slow down just a little bit?
Yes.
Thank you.
So Chris Godwin, DeAndre Hopkins, Jerry Jeudy, Devontae Adams, Michael Thomas, Brandon Ayuk, and Laramie Tunsil from the Texans. As much hype as these may have, the Bears will most likely not trade, barring any crazy deals or trade availabilities. Now we have some fun, ladies and gents. The perfect offseason begins. So, please note, today, the Bears re-signed wide receiver Equinemius St. Brown to a 1-year, $1.25 million contract extension. As far as extensions and re-signings go, I am re-signing Dante Pettis to a 1-year, $1 million deal. Our long snapper, Patrick Scales, to 1-year, $1.2 million. I am tendering cornerback Josh Blackwell. David Montgomery, 3 years, $21 million. DeAndre Houston Carson, 1 year, $2 million for depth. And then Nicholas Morrow, the outside linebacker, 1 year, $4 million. For leftover cap space, we have $105,765,358. I'm going to shorten that for the time being. Now, for the draft, the simulation was done. Coach Tyler says Dante Pettis, thumbs down. I like him, but we'll get there. The draft. Now, keep in mind, the simulation was done on PFF's mock draft and big board, and this is only assuming the Bears clinch the number 2 overall pick after the Texans lose to Indianapolis. The trade. Bears trade number 2 overall to Detroit for number 4 via Los Angeles and number 18 via Detroit and a 2024 third from Minnesota. Detroit will trade up to take Bryce Young after Will Levis goes number 1 overall to Houston, which I found laughable, but you know what? PFF liked it, and that's what I saw and took, so that's what's going to happen. Number 4 overall, Jalen Carter, defensive interior, Georgia. So we got our defensive tackle there. Number 18 overall, Paris Johnson Jr., offensive tackle, Ohio State. And then number 56 overall in the second round, Rashee Rice, the wide receiver from SMU. Guessing we're in the ballpark of $15 million in cap hit on the entire draft class. I'm assuming Poles is going to make a couple more moves, get us a couple late round draft picks, stuff like that later on the draft. He did it a lot last season. Not really expecting anything less from him, but $15 million I think is really generous. But we're just going to do that for sake of the following. Our cap space remaining, $90 million, approximately 90.7, but almost 90.8. Our free agent signings, left tackle Orlando Brown Jr. Now, keep in mind, if he's available, sign him, throw the farm at him. 5 years, $112 million. Center, Connor McGovern, 3 years, $35 million. Edge rusher, Yannick Ngakwe. Ngakwe, yeah, sure. 4 years, $62 million. Edge rusher and I'll get there, Samson Ibukam from the 49ers. 2 years, $14 million. Now we get on the offensive side of the ball a little bit before we dip into the defense, and then we, get a little bit more. Juju Smith-Schuster's coming to Chicago, reuniting with Chase Claypool. 3 years, $30 million. We get a wide receiver for $10 million. Marcus Peters, the cornerback, on a 2-year, $20 million deal. And then Robert Tonyan, a 1-year, $5 million deal. I don't know if Green Bay can retain him, but I think Luke Getsy might be able to make some magic happen between him and Cole Kmet. So, note this. Remaining in 2023, we have $2.1, almost $2.2 million remaining in cap space after all of that. In 2024, we'll have $117.5 million cap remaining, but you also have to think you have to re-sign or think about re-signing Cole Kmet, Jalen Johnson, Darnell Mooney, Chase Claypool, Travis Gibson, Kendall Vildor, and Al-Qadim Muhammad. Those are the notable guys that I think are worth re-signing among the entire class. Now for the starting roster of your 2023 to 2024 Chicago Bears. Quarterback, Justin Fields. Running back, David Montgomery, Khalil Herbert, Treston Ebner. Wide receiver room, Juju Smith-Schuster, Darnell Mooney, Chase Claypool, Equinemius St. Brown, Rashee Rice, Dante Pettis, and Velus Jones Jr. on the practice squad. Tight ends, Cole Kmet, Robert Tonyan, and then a rookie. Let's see. Orlando Brown Jr., the left tackle. Cody Whitehair, the left guard. Connor McGovern, center. Right guard, Tevin Jenkins. And then at right tackle, Paris Johnson Jr. I'm moving the rookie to right tackle. What's up, Matt from Bustworthy? How you doing? Yeah, so pretty much I just went over everything. Go ahead and rewind it a few. It'll be okay. Now for the defense. So our left defensive end, we're going to have a little bit of a position battle here between Travis Gibson in his last year on his contract and Samson Ebukam. Our defensive tackles are Justin Jones and Jalen Carter. Our right defensive end is Yannick Ngakoue. Our will linebacker is going to be a rookie. We're going to get it within the 3rd or 4th round, but I didn't cover that in the draft because I specifically said in the 1st or 2nd rounds, that's what's going to be covered. Our middle linebacker, and Jack Sanborn. Heck, he's done pretty good. I expect him to stick around. Our Sam linebacker, Nicholas Morrow. Now, Coach Tyler, I know you're watching this and you're like throwing up right now. I promise you it's going to be okay in the future, but I don't have it. I don't have a set plan for it. Cornerback 1, Jalen Johnson. Cornerback 2, Marcus Peters. Our nickel cornerback and Kyler Gordon. Our strong safety and Jaquan Brisker. And our free safety and Eddie Jackson. What I think is quite possibly the best secondary in the league. Place kicker is Cairo Santos. Our punter is Trenton Gill. And then our kick return is either Velus Jones Jr. or Rashee Rice. I find it better not to trade for a player in 2023 unless it's a perfect fit. You're building again, but hoping to compete for a playoff spot this next year. With this, you'll get more draft capital for the future and build around the young quarterback as well. That's it. That's all I have. Ben, I'm going to go ahead and bring you back.
Yes.
I would like to know what your thoughts are on all of this because I did a lot of homework on this.
Yes. So just out of the way too, again, like I said, the problem last week with the episode is a whole bunch of scheduling conflicts. That being said, I still have family staying with me. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but if you can pick up on it, there's a baby in the background, so I'm sorry. That being said, though, so just right out of the way, we'll start with the draft there. The ones that stood out for me is the whole Tyree Wilson. I like it. I just don't I can't see it happening unless you trade all the way back to like 10 or 11, which I think would be stupid to trade all the way back to 10 or 11. I don't think you should trade back that far. The Cam Smith and the Killian Ringo one, for the same reason, it's just like you're not going to draft those guys within the top 8 picks where I think you guys are going to be trading back to. Right. And this cornerback really, are you really going to pick a cornerback over offensive line or wide receiver or something? Bijan Robinson for the same reason. I don't think you guys are going to trade far back enough for that to happen. As much as I'm a Bijan Robinson fan, and I think he's a top 15 player in this class, most people do not agree with me on that one. And he plays running back, undervalued position. And then the center out of Ohio State, Luke, I just don't think he's a day one. I don't think he's a day one or early day 2 pick. And I think the center class this year is pretty darn good. So you could find someone, dude, you can find someone like far down the board, like an
Mhm.
Oluwatimi out of Michigan in like the 4th round or 5th round. I think that'd be the smart way to go, especially in the offense you guys want to play. One of my favorite like pairing is actually Oluwatimi and you guys, just because the way he moves as a center.
Coach Tyler saying, whoever said Jack Sanborn was going to sneak in and start is a genius. Hey, we might know that guy. For those that haven't listened to episode 2, it was Coach Tyler. He said he was going to be good. Anyways,
yes. So Oluwatimi, I think, would be an awesome fit for you guys in like the 4th round, which I'm all for. Moving on, and I wrote it down even before you said you signed him. I think signing Connor McGovern would be awesome. I think he's such an underrated player in today's NFL. And I think he'd come to the Bears and people would be like, oh, he's actually kind of good at football. So I think it's an awesome signing. I think Deron Payne is a super underrated signing as well, if you guys could make it happen. And then the only other one that didn't make any sense to me was a Brendan Ayuk one. I could see where you were at least going with the other ones, but I don't see a pathway to Brendan Ayuk
that's
being
the
traded.
thing. He would be my favorite trade target, but I don't think that it's going to happen. That's
Mhm.
why in this whole simulation, I didn't do any crazy trades because I do think that it's out of the realm of possibility.
Yes. And then in terms of signings, I wouldn't sign Demont, just let Demont go. I've been a big proponent, as much as people don't like it. I'm a proponent of you don't sign running backs unless you. Yeah, just give me 1 second. I don't think you should sign a running back unless they're a CMC or a Saquon Barkley or an Alvin Kamara, unless they're like the top. You can find a dude in the 3rd round each and every year.
Yeah.
You can find a Javonte Williams every year. You could find, heck, even a James Robinson, or you could draft a guy like Breece Hall in the 2nd round. I'm just not a fan of re-signing running backs to longer-term contracts, but go for it.
We've had that talk before, Ben. But I also said if I can get him on a cheaper deal, I'd be more than willing to do that. In this, I forgot to note as well, it's an option deal. It's like a 2-year deal with a 3rd year being a team option. And not only that, but it's only a $7 million cap hit per year. So it's not that big of a hit. He's not making that much. And you potentially have him until he's 27, 28, because he's only 25 right now. Yes. That's where my head was. But anyways, continue.
And then was not a big fan of the Juju signing either. I think he's better than Chase Claypool, but it's in the same mold. Like, you're paying a dude money and you're spending money to like put resources out of talent or like out of position for it to be average.
Yeah.
I've never been a Juju guy either. That being said, though, I would, if you could get Marcus Peters for that'd be awesome. And Marcus Peters, I think it's like we saw him with Marlon Humphrey, and now we're seeing him with Jalen Johnson, which would be a whole lot of fun. And then in terms of draft, I'm going to get this out of the way. PFF's mock draft simulator is just the worst mock draft simulator ever. I hate it. That being said, what you had in like what you did, I was a fan of. I mean, I don't think it was like far too unrealistic. And people are gonna be like, Will Levis #1 over Bryce Young. I'm a Will Levis stand, so that's besides the point. I love Will Levis, but we will get to him in the offseason. But I love the building through the trenches. I think that's awesome. I think building through the trenches is the way to go. And then the thing is when you're reading the the offensive and defensive starters, you said move Paris Johnson over from left to right tackle. People who are kind of just watching him this year, Paris Johnson, his first 2 years was actually the right tackle at Ohio State until this year he made the switch.
I told you I did my homework.
He played right tackle there because Nicky P. I'm not going to even try to pronounce his name, but Nicky P. Who was the left tackle for Ohio State for 3 or 4 years, he got drafted this past year, so it makes sense why Paris Johnson moves to left tackle. I do think you get the best value from him playing at left tackle, but he's been a perfectly fine right tackle. And Orlando Brown is awesome. I'm never going to be mad that you signed Orlando Brown. And then I love their Rasheed Rice. Each and every year I come out with like a ranking of like tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 of my guys and the guys I don't like. Rasheed Rice is one of those players on that list. I love him. I think he'd be a lot of fun. My only question too, though, is I still think I think you improved the offensive line a significant amount, which is awesome. I think you improved the defensive a significant amount, and that's awesome. But we still go back to the number one wide receiver. I just don't think you quite have that guy in that roster, but
That's
you can't fix everything. You can't fix everything in 1 year. So
yeah, and I'm not fully expecting that answer this year. There's very limited amount of answers in the free agent market, and then there's also very limited answers if you're not wanting to give up that much in draft capital. With that being said, I think Juju Smith-Schuster, Darnell Mooney, Chase Claypool, and Equinemius St. Brown would not be a bad top four, especially if you're giving just. Well, right. I know that would be, number 5, and he could have a chance to move up too.
He would. I promise you. If you draft, like I so badly either want you or Matt's team. I know Matt does his research into the draft as well, but like I need one of our guys set up with Rashida Rice. I love him. I think. Anyway, sorry.
I think you're surrounding Justin Fields with the right guys, at least to develop a little bit more,
Yes.
and then you're also protecting him for long-term stuff. So as far as that goes, I think, pretty successful. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think it was a good success. Again, like I said, you can't fix everything in 1 year. But again, I think this past game, he actually broke the Bears sack record. And I say that he was sacked 55 times in the season, previously held by Jay Cutler, which was 52. And again, I might be a little biased here as an Eagles fan, as someone who played offensive and defensive line in high school. But I do think the way to win NFL games, and the way to win playoff games, and the way to win Super Bowls is through the trenches, offensive and defensive line. So I think that's that's to start. Because again, at least you might not have the number one wide receiver, and you might have just a team filled with number 2 wide receivers.
Yeah.
That's something you can fix in the future. That being said, at least Justin Fields is now going to have time to finally get someone open to throw the ball to, so we can see that passer that me and you know he is.
Yeah.
The NFL might not. NFL media isn't quite there as a passer, but me and you both know he's a good passer. So this offensive line finally gives him a chance to show the kind of passer that he can be with an elite number 1 wide receiver one day.
Absolutely. I think, this was a lot of fun to do, I will say. But not only that, but managing this team was awesome. That, and I think Robert Tonyan as another tight end option would be awesome. But let's get to answering this question too from Matt. What about Josh Jacobs? Is he in that tier now that after this season? He's not. He's
not. He's had an awesome year, and I love Josh Jacobs. But going into this year, people didn't know if he was even the starting running back on the Raiders team. And now obviously he has shown that he's a starting running back and he can be a top 10 running back in the league. But history through his other 3 years tells you he's just not there, and he's just not in the same tier as CMC, as Alvin Kamara, as Saquon Barkley. If I'm a team, honestly, I'm probably giving him a 1-year contract. Say, I'll give you $8 million or something. If you're this awesome running back and you can do it again, fine, I'll pay you. But he just hasn't proven in the long term that he belongs in that tier. He's played out well this season. It's 1 season, though.
Yeah. As
an Eagles fan, I can tell you 1 season of production doesn't mean, future seasons of production. So, but I think give him a 1-year deal. And then if he can prove that he belongs there, then yes. But I would not give him a long-term deal this year.
I'm right there with you. It's another one of those things with running backs. Like I said, maybe a 2-year deal with an option would be good. Let's go ahead and move on to another thing that I'm looking forward to.
Pro football isn't the only game in town. Let's take a stroll to Ben's College Corner.
Ben.
Oh, fun week this week.
Oh my God. Here's the thing, man. Okay, look, let's talk about it, right? So for your Michigan Wolverines, what a game, man. And it sucked.
And
it sucked.
Matt, I know Matt's listening, or at least I know he was. He pointed out, this is why we sit through past years of really bad semifinal games in the CFP to see games like this. Both games that was played on Saturday were amazing. It sucks. Michigan just played awful. The reffing in the game was awful, though, really bad. But I'll stand on the hill that I've created for myself. If you're in position to lose a game to 1 or 2 calls, your team didn't play well enough. But it was just bad reffing, and also just really bad mistakes, just like awful mistakes, like 2 pick sixes, and then you fumble on the 1 yard line. Like you just can't have that. But somehow they still put themselves in position to go down and score. By the way, that was absolutely, that was a textbook definition of targeting. It really does not get much clearer than that. And then that Roman Wilson touchdown in the second quarter was absolutely a touchdown, and I have no clue how it was not called a touchdown. But that's besides the point. That was a fun game. Sad to see it end the way it did. Michigan wins that game 9 times out of 10. That being said, Ryan Day was born on third base and will be stuck on third base and is probably on second base now. CJ Stroud, as much as I'm not a CJ Stroud fan when it comes into the draft cycle, was playing awesome this entire game. And Ryan Day was like, we'll not put the ball in his hands when it matters the most. And he's been playing awesome. It's just,
you know who else played amazing? Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah, dude, he's
God.
so good, and he's a freshman. You have 2 more years in. He's going to be awesome. I can't wait to see him develop into the number 1 overall or the first round pick that we know he will be.
Great.
And Ohio State is slowly becoming wide receiver with Garrett Wilson and Michael Thomas and Chris Olave, and now Marvin Harrison in a few years. So it'll be fun. And for those who don't know why that game was fun, so the Michigan game ended up, I think the final score of that game was 51-46. That was fun because Michigan had a chance to go and win the game. They didn't. But then the Ohio State game was fun because Ohio State was leading for the majority of the time. And like going into the fourth quarter, they were up by 14 points or 13 points. It was either 13 or 14. I'm blanking on it. But then Georgia cut it back, and Georgia ended up winning the game 42-41. But in the final drive, like I said, Georgia was up 42-41. Ohio State looks like they were going to march their way down the field and win the game. And then Ohio State's kicker misses the game-winning field goal.
Dude, and he didn't just miss it.
He shanked it. It was not even close to getting in, which is a shame because I don't like to hate on players and stuff.
Dude, it was so bad.
I don't like hating on players, and I hate on OSU a lot. But I almost hate Stetson Bennett as much as I hate OSU. So it made me viscerally angry to see his reaction. And yes, I'd much rather have Georgia get in there over OSU because I just don't like OSU.
He just doesn't want to see me happy. That's it.
I hate Stetson Bennett though. I hate to see him when he missed it and him running on the field and jump. I just don't like Stetson Bennett at all. He's like one of the most unlikable college football players I have ever watched, and I don't.
The amount of quarterbacks in the NFL that are older or that are younger than Stetson Bennett.
It's wild. He's just succeeding too because he's like he plays in like a very friendly offense. He's not good. He's very, very bad, and I don't know what it like. He seems like a good person, and he's a fun story. I don't know what it is about him, but I just do not like Stetson Bennett. So I feel for you. I thought for sure you were gonna have it. And I was gonna be happy for you, but it always sucks to lose that way.
It did, but you know what? I'm not gonna be upset because you know what? My Buckeyes lasted much longer than I thought they would. Not only that, but I mean they played really, really tough football when it mattered. Unfortunately, it didn't end their way. But the thing is like, you know, there's a lot to take away from that. But I don't know. Not only that, I mean, you've got some rising stars in it as well. And the best of all things, at least we don't have to see Michigan go on. Like that's it.
Well, I feel the same way as a Michigan fan about OSU. But it's tough, and I hate to be this guy. And I'll say the same thing for TCU. I'll probably say the same thing for Georgia. Michigan at least has the best outlook because they're still a pretty young team. OSU has questions when it comes to quarterback. And I don't know if you guys are going to be back. TCU is definitely not going to be back. I don't even know if Georgia's going to be back. So it's just, I think this was your guys' chance. And it's just a fan of college football. It's a bit of a shame. That being said, there were also some like really, really good games throughout the rest of the week. Penn State beat Utah. That was a really fun game to watch.
Oh, yeah.
Tulane actually came back and won against you're a future number 1 overall pick, Heisman winning, future number 1 overall pick, and maybe Heisman winning quarterback next year in Caleb Williams. And it came back and they beat USC, which was just absolutely wild. And I think they won 2 games last year, and now they've won 12. So
Yeah,
it was it's fun. And then Oregon played UNC, which was a game I said that people should look out for, and they should, because Oregon won by 1 point against UNC. That was also a very, very fun game. Drake May too. I think we saw our future number 1 and number 2 overall quarterback play this past week in next year's draft. So that was very fun. But you sound like you wanted to say something.
I don't remember. You can go ahead.
It was about Tulane. You said
Tulane.
But...
Yeah, dude. Okay, you know how sometimes I think that you're allowed to have like a small team that you're allowed to root for. You know what I mean? And that is,
if everyone's favorite team isn't Tulane, then you're lying to yourself.
Dude, I am so happy for their growth as a program. Matt going ahead and saying Texas will be playing one of those games next year. Book it. Yeah. Okay. What is it? Longhorn Nation. We're back.
We're back.
No. Yeah. No. Anyways,
okay. Well, yeah.
I'm just gonna say it here. I've always been a Tulane little bit. I root for them.
Yes.
But and it's strictly because Matt Forte and Darnell Mooney, 2 of my favorite Bears. But
clean jerseys too. Very clean jerseys.
Oh yeah,
the best jerseys in college football. That being said, we're gonna touch on that real quick. I don't know about that one, Matt. As much as I like Quinn Ewers, as much as I like X, I don't know about that. Your guys' offensive game was heavily reliant on the run game, and both your number 1 and your number 2 running backs are both coming into this draft class. I don't know who your 3rd string running back is, and maybe I'm gonna look stupid and I'll do the little Shaq thing. I'm sorry, I didn't know your game, but I don't know who your number 3 running back is. But your guys' offense was heavily reliant on the run game, and to see Bijan and Roshan, I think is his name, both leaving, which just hurt. But we'll see. But development of Quentin Ewers, who next year's draft class is going to be fun.
Tajay Sharp, next great Bears running back, I hope. Yeah, we talked about that a little bit individually,
Yes.
This is, I don't know, Ben, you want to cover it? I know this is your thing.
Well, I'm going to touch on this real quick. I just can't get to Texas yet. I think Quentin Ewers is going to be fun in this next year's draft class. Not the one that's going to be here in April, but the one that's going to be like a year and a half from now is going to be filled with quarterback talents. I know you and Matt talked about how this offensive class, and it has Bryce Young in it. It's just not quite up to par what we're used to. The class after that is going to be awesome with Drake May, with Caleb Williams, with Quentin Ewers. It's going to be a lot of fun. I don't know if it'll be Sharp, though, there for Coach Tyler. He's just plenty full of running backs. More so than normal years. There's plenty full of running backs. Again, like I said, I think you can find running backs anywhere throughout the draft. But this year's class is awesome. You have Gibbs from Bama, obviously my guy, Matt's guy, and Bijan Robinson. You have Zach Charbonnet from UCLA. You have Tanks Bigsby from Auburn. You have so many guys. You even have Roshan, the other running back from Texas, who I think is going to kind of shock people's when it comes to there. I just think this draft class is going to be really, really filled with running backs. But I don't think we're giving the running back that's already there in next year's room for sure with the Bears enough credit. Yeah. I liked Herbert when he came out, and I think Herbert's going to be awesome if he gets the number 1 job.
And we also got to see Tristan Ebner perform pretty well.
Yeah,
maybe if we saw a little bit more opportunity for him, maybe he can do a little bit better. Who knows?
But I think I'm a fan of I love Herbert. I think he's awesome, and I think he's gonna I was a fan of him coming out of college. He wasn't on my list, but I've always liked him. So it'll be fun to see him kind of hopefully step into the role unless you guys sign D-Mont or like Tony Pollard or something.
I'd like Tony Pollard. That'd be cool.
I bet you would. That being said, we'll move on to my guy of the week, my prospect of the week. He's a guy lower on the boards, like a third, fourth, fifth round pick, who I snuck into my list, who I haven't been asked questions about, which is kind of surprising. But Nick Herbig from Wisconsin, which is really fun because Wisconsin is producing like these edge talents. I mean, obviously you have your Watt brothers, but now we have Nick Herbig, and obviously I'm not saying Nick Herbig is going to even get close to them, but Nick Herbig is your edge, not defensive end, but edge. Again, he goes to Wisconsin. He's a junior. He's 6'2", 226 pounds. When I read that, the thing that probably stood out to you is an edge rusher at 6'2", 226 pounds. He's really small for an edge rusher. We will get there, though. I love Nick Herbig. Again, like I said, he's on my list. The dude has just really, really powerful hands, and he has shown to have an abundance of pass rushing moves. He has a good scissor. He has good rip and dip, really good bull rush, really good strong arm. And then you see 6'2", and you're like, is he going to be able to hold up against offensive linemen and tight ends at the next level in the run game? At least as far as tight ends in college, he's been really, really good about being able to drop that anchor and hold and clog up a run game, which is awesome. And like I said, he's super duper bendy as well. Like if this dude was 6'4", he would probably be a first round pick. He's an amazing pass rusher. He has 18 sacks in the last 2 seasons. Again, and with that super bendy and the super powerful hands and the pass rushing moves, he just has a motor that always runs hot. It never gets cold. Like we see him, coming around from the other side of the darn line and tackle a running back and get someone. So he's like, if he was 6'4", he'd be a first round pick, but people are sleeping on him. That being said, his con is he's undersized, which is going to be really, really tough because that almost lumps him into the pass rush specialist box unless he can learn how to drop that anchor against actual offensive linemen in the NFL. And that's tough because he's been an awesome pass rusher, an awesome edge who hasn't really, he's been able to drop that anchor here in the NCAA and in college. But I don't know if he's going to be able to do that. But like I said, he's been an awesome pass rusher, so he hasn't had to show the ability to cover. So I'm worried about his ability to cover in the NFL, which is going to hold him back because you don't want to have a small edge because you don't know if he's going to be able to run up or stop the run. But you also can't throw him at linebacker because he hasn't played any coverage snaps in college, at all. He has 15 coverage snaps the whole year this year.
Yeah.
So his role is going to be really, really tough. But I think if he can learn how to drop that anchor a little bit more and play a little bit in coverage, again, you're not going to ask him to play in coverage and cover a slot cornerback. My computer screen just turned off. You're not going to ask him to cover a slot cornerback, but if you can see him kind of drop back and play flats, and again, like I said, drop that anchor and play in the run, I think he could be really, 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 really good. Again, if I had to make a one-to-one comparison, you think of an undersized pass rusher who kind of struggled in the first few years, but then once we figured out, he's actually a really good pass rusher. Biasly, I think of Hassan Reddick. Hassan Reddick is 6'1". Obviously, Hassan Reddick has a little bit more meat on his bones, and he doesn't weigh 226 pounds. But I think he very well could develop into that. I'm a very big Nick Herbig guy. I think I don't want to say it, but I think he might be the best just purely rushing the passer prospect in this entire draft. And I think a team is really, really going to love to be able to get that in the 3rd or 4th round. You don't see a guy like that pass rushing as well as he does with 18 sacks and the traits outside of being short that he has go in the 3rd or 4th round. But because he is 6'2", he will go that late. But I think he's going to be really, really awesome for any team that can pick him up. And obviously his main fit is a 3-4 backer. But he could play Sam if he develops that a little bit more in the next level. So keep an eye on Nick Herbig, and any team who gets him, I think, is going to get the steal of the draft.
So without further ado, I think that'll conclude today's episode. But before we do that, I would like to just kind of lay out a message. In wake of all of the DeMar Hamlin injuries and news and everything, it wakes everybody up. And at the end of the day, what I would like to say is please keep him in your prayers, as we've already said before. Just keep him in your thoughts and prayers, as well as his friends and family and his teammates as well that have to play this weekend. It's going to be a really tough scene in the football world coming within the next couple weeks, especially with the news that we're hoping to hear and just try to kind of stay posted with that as much as possible. And not only that, but this really kind of opened my eyes, and I hope that it opens other people's to go ahead and kind of hug their family members a little bit tighter, because you never know when that just sudden thing would happen. Things kind of take the turn for the worst, and really, really quick motions. And God works in mysterious ways, and I think that prayer can fix a lot of things that people can't fix on their own. So when it comes to that, keep him in mind, keep your own family in mind as well. Just give them a hug, tell them you love them, stuff like that, because you never know. I mean, it could be gone just like that. But without further ado, Ben, any closing comments before we close it out?
No, again, you hit the nail on the head. Just, pray for what you got, be happy for what you got. You never know, when stuff can change. So just be thankful. And like you said, go and hug your family members, go and hug the people that you love. And, don't be shy to tell people that you love them. Even if you're a guy, I don't think it really matters. So just, let the people in your life know that you love them, and just be there for people.
Absolutely. So last but not least as well, if you guys know of it, or if you haven't been tuning in at the beginning of the podcast, if you skipped ahead a little bit as well, Damar Hamlin has a fund going for like a toy drive. If you have a couple bucks, go ahead and drop it in that, man. I mean, anything helps for him, helps the cause. I'm sure his family and himself would actually like to dish that stuff out as well, and anything helps. But without further ado, if you made it this far, we want to say thank you. We want to give a big thank you to Overtime Sports Network, Regional Radio Sports Network, Uppercuts Grooming, and Anchor.fm for helping us kind of grow our podcast. If you liked what you saw today or heard today, please leave a review. It helps us so much more than you know. And that's going to do it for this week's Pigskin Project. Also, guests coming soon. We've got two scheduled.
Two lined up. So, and next time you guys see me, I will be back in my house in Bloomington. So
fun stuff. All right, guys. Until next week, enjoy this last regular season week of football. Go Texans. All right. Have a good one, guys.